All right, guys, so let's kick it off. So what if you could collapse time and step into the version of you that already has everything that you desire? Not in a year, not in a month, but in the next 75 minutes. So welcome to the Superconscious Shift. I'm Terriane Palmer-Peacock, and this isn't just a masterclass, this is an activation. So it's an advanced training in structural consciousness. And during our time together, I'm going to reveal the exact framework that allows you to effortlessly embody the ultimate version of yourself. Now, when I discovered this framework, the framework that I'm about to share with you, it rendered 15 years of my previous education, everything I had built my career on, completely obsolete. I had to leave it all behind because this is so profoundly effective. It actually simplifies everything. And the best part about it, this isn't a gift you're born with. It's a skill. It can be learned and you can master it once you know the blueprint. So whether you're with me live today, thank you ladies, or a huge welcome to you for being here, or if you're watching the replay, I'm going to show you how to bypass your deepest fears. I'm going to show you how to transform your most stubborn limitations, and I'm going to upgrade your entire level of consciousness to activate your superconscious genius. Now, this is without a doubt the most potent life-altering activation I facilitate, because by the end of our time together, you will hold the key to finally follow through on everything you've ever set your heart on. So this isn't about more willpower. It's not about grinding discipline. This is about a fundamental shift in your entire operating system. So here's a glimpse of the journey that you're about to embark on. First, you'll pinpoint the hidden kill switch that makes you start strong and then fizzle out. You know that feeling when motivation vanishes and something else suddenly feels more important? Well, we'll dismantle that pattern. Then you'll discover the two core orientations of consciousness. So one will lock you into a life of struggle, while the other opens you up to a state of creative flow. Now, you'll also get the exact method to shift your core identity so that taking consistent action feels as natural as breathing, not like something you have to force. And finally, we'll do a powerful live process together to begin rewiring your nervous system for what you truly want. Now, you should know that while I have a pretty clear structure for what we're going to cover today, I don't always follow a rigid script. So my primary commitment here today is to you and to the energy of this group. So it's going to be a co-creative space, right? We're going to use our shared intuition to go where we need to go, ensuring that you do get the specific breakthrough that you came here for, whether you're live or on the replay. Now, let's begin with the most important principle of reality. Have you ever stopped to consider that your entire life, every relationship, your bank account, your health is a direct reflection of an identity you're not even aware of? This means nothing in your life is an accident. Not the challenges, not the frustrations, and not the problems that you keep running into. So every single piece of it is a perfect mirror showing you what your unconscious believes to be true. So, to create lasting change, it's not about learning more things. It's about achieving mastery over three foundational pillars. So the first is the structural creative process, which is what we're going to explore today. The second is activating your intuition so you can make crystal clear decisions about people, about opportunities, and about your health. And the third, and most important, is about installing the identity of who you truly are. Because we're not just blood, flesh, and bones with a name. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And when you operate from that truth, you realize, well, you were never broken to begin with. There is a bigger part of you, a superconscious genius that is capable of creating anything. So imagine what becomes possible when you have mastery over this part of yourself. Now, I'm going to share some stories today of clients who've used this work to attract their life partners, double their income in 60 days, and heal chronic conditions. Now, I share these stories not to impress you, but to show you what's possible, because I promise you there is nothing you cannot create when you operate from this level. So let me ask you this, and be honest with yourself. Are you done with unconsciously giving your power away to old patterns, doubts, and fears? If you're ready to reclaim that power right now, I want you to pop a yes in the chat. Go ahead and just pop a yes in the chat. Okay, because we do it all the time, don't we? We hand our power over to our doctors, over maybe to a doctor's diagnosis. We hand our power over to a boss's opinion. Maybe we hand it over to a past trauma, or the false hope that some external achievement will finally be the thing that fixes us. We find ourselves searching, making a little progress, only to slide right back to where we started, leaving us frustrated and exhausted. So if you can feel the potential within you to heal or to create a new reality and finally live with a deep sense of peace, if you're ready to be the architect of that change and step into your fullest expression, then you're in exactly the right place. Now, before we dive into the core framework of today's training, I want to briefly map out what comes next for those of you who already know that you're ready to go deeper. Okay, is that okay? So for those of you who feel like a hell yes rising inside of you, who are ready to master this work at the deepest level, I just want to extend a quick invitation to the Momentum Method. So this is our VIP minimum of 3 months personal coaching experience. So imagine what it would feel like to spend the next 90 days with us, fully activating your superconscious genius. You'll get 12 one-on-one sessions, a comprehensive training vault with powerful meditations, and a step-by-step blueprint to orient your entire life around what you truly desire. So together, we will identify and dismantle every single limitation holding you back. There's nothing else like it. So I'm actually preparing for our final intake before the new year, because we kick things off on the 1st of January. And our next group is actually going to start early. It's going to start next month. But to be clear, there's no pressure here. All right, you have a choice. You can join us today and claim a special $1,000 fast action bonus, which I'll detail later, or you can take what you learn here and use it as a powerful standalone tool. Now, I decided to make this training available for free because I know that even when you get a small taste of what's possible, you'll think, wow, if this is what I can shift in just 75 minutes, what could I create in 90 days? Now, I want you to feel the difference for yourself, because the shift you'll experience today is nothing compared to the compounding power of 90 days of deep immersion. You see, the Momentum Method is more than just activating your superconscious. It's a unique fusion of ancient wisdom, modern neuroscience, and the most advanced manifestation techniques available. You know, much of this work has been hidden. It's been tucked away in obscure texts and private circles. And I've dedicated years to excavating it, pressure testing it, and engineering it into a systematic, repeatable method that gets results. And I live by it every single day. You know, I use this method to live in a $2 million home overlooking the water on the Gold Coast. I use it to achieve things that on paper should be impossible. You know, at 54 years old, that's my age, just 2 weeks ago, I won a gold medal at the Australian National Sprint Championships. And not in my age category, but in the open women's division against athletes half my age. I qualified to represent Australia at the World Championships next year. Now, yes, yay! Earlier this year, I can also say, for the second year in a row, I became the second fastest woman in Australia over 10 Ks on an outrigger canoe. Now, that's just 20 seconds behind a 20-year-old. Now, like I said, this is not sharing this with you to brag. I share it with you as proof, because at my age, I shouldn't be doing this. But the only reason I am is because of the daily processes inside the Momentum Method. And the way that I figure it is that if it can work for me in a domain as physically demanding and competitive as elite sports, imagine what it can do for your finances or your relationships or your health. You see, mastering your superconscious is the most direct and predictable path to turning your thoughts into things. Now, let me be very clear, crystal clear about what this is not. The momentum method is not about positive thinking or reciting affirmations in the mirror. It is not about more willpower or motivation hacks. And it is absolutely not therapy, because you're not broken and you don't need fixing. Now, you may have noticed that the personal development world at the moment is full of half-truths. Anybody paid attention to that? So a half-truth is a piece of advice that sounds good, but it's missing the critical component that actually makes it work. I would like to say that the momentum method is the whole truth. It isn't any of those things that I just listed. Yet when you embody this work, your life will completely transform. You see, from the outside, it'll look like you're just incredibly positive. I mean, who wouldn't be if they were living their dream life? It'll look like you have superhuman willpower. It will look like you've solved all your problems. But internally, something way more profound would have happened. And this is what I want to give you a direct experience of today. Think of our time together as a powerful activation. Now, I know exactly what it feels like to be searching for the truth, only to be left oscillating between a step forward and 2 steps back, a step forward and 2 steps back. You know that feeling when you're striving and struggling, where there's some parts of your life that are absolutely soaring while others feel like they're stuck in concrete. And I just want you to know that I see you, because I've been you. You know, I was hungry to figure out the formula for success, and I did, but it came at a cost. My success was built on a foundation of struggle and burnout. You know, I spent 7 years teaching on stages all around the world until my body and spirit completely gave out. I then spent the next 10 years in a self-imposed hibernation, unconsciously living from the trauma of too much work, too much responsibility, and pretty much no sleep. And for me, it was in that quiet space that I had my biggest realization. I saw that the traditional personal development model was broken. Everything I had learned, that I had built my career up, it was great for opening my awareness, but it was also now the very thing that was keeping me trapped. Have you ever considered that the mindset that got you here won't get you there? Because that's when it hit me. The real problem wasn't my strategy or my work ethic. I had that in bucket loads, right? The problem was that my own unconscious mind was still actively working against my desires. I was in a constant internal battle and nothing ever felt easy. So how many of you know what that feels like? Yeah. So what is this powerful invisible force that's really running the show? What is the unconscious mind? So I think the best way to think of it is as the operating system for your life. So it's the part of you that's running your body right now, that's beating your heart, that's digesting your food without even a conscious thought from you. It's the home of your deepest emotions and automated behaviors. But here's the most important part. It's 100% programmable. It learns and then automates everything. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried brushing your teeth with your non-dominant hand? Just for a second, imagine what that feels like. And notice it already feels awkward, clumsy, and for some of you completely unnatural, isn't it? You know, you have to consciously direct every single movement. Yet I know when I brush my teeth and that, I'm probably doing a million other things as I'm walking around the house and, you know, with my electric toothbrush and that. I'm not thinking about brushing my teeth per se. You see, the feeling that you get about that awkwardness is the resistance to a deeply automated program. You've trained your unconscious to do it one way and one way only. The same thing goes for how you sign your name. You don't even think about it. You just do it. The same thing for most people is also like when you use your mouse. I actually tried to train myself to use the mouse on the other hand because it's actually more effective, because that way you can run the computer and write if you're right-handed. It didn't last very long, but I will say I did try it, right? Um, it's a program that we've got running on autopilot. Now, this part of you, this program, is ancient. And I want you to think of it like a loyal but severely outdated bodyguard. Right? Its only job is to keep you alive, and it does that by automating processes to free up your focus for new threats or opportunities. But here's the catch, and this is the key to everything. Once that program is locked in, the bodyguard sees change as a threat to your survival. So think about how accents stick with us. So I have a Kiwi accent, but after years in Australia, like I'm coming up 27 years now, I use Aussie slang, and my friends back home tease me about it. But my core accent, well, it doesn't really change. And every time I go home, it gets stronger when I come back again. So either way, I'm screwed with my accent here in Australia, and I'm screwed with my accent back in New Zealand. So someone can move to a new country, and 50 years later, they still have that beautiful melodic accent of their childhood home. It was programmed unconsciously long before they had a say in anything to do with it. So here's the question that changes everything. If your unconscious picked up your accent as a child, what else did you unconsciously pick up? What beliefs around money did you inherit from your parents? What patterns in relationships? What silent agreements did you make about what you're capable of achieving? You see, if you absorbed their way of speaking without even trying, what other ways of being did you absorb that are now running your life on autopilot? So just let that sink in for a moment. You see, your unconscious has one primary goal that overrides everything else: to keep you alive by ensuring you belong to your family or your tribe. Now, this is a survival mechanism, especially when we're children and are completely dependent on them. So your unconscious mind's first and most important job was to make you fit in. Now, there's an old saying, in a family of thieves, the one who doesn't steal is the one who feels guilty. You see, we are neurologically wired to seek innocence, and our unconscious believes that we are innocent only when we belong. When we belong, we feel safe. Now, to ensure your survival as a child, your unconscious mind adopted your family's beliefs, their patterns, and their limitations as your own. Now, here is the most startling and important realization you might have all day. Are you ready for it? Whatever your unconscious mind has survived, it considers a successful strategy. It doesn't care how painful, how stressful, or limiting that experience felt to you. It operates on a single black and white question: did I survive? And if the answer is yes, your unconscious locks that experience in as a valid survival strategy. It literally thinks that repeating a painful but familiar past is a better bet than risking an unknown future. Think about that. Whatever you have survived, be it a financial struggle, be it a relationship drama, self-sabotage, chronic stress, your unconscious bodyguard has stamped it with a big green approved for survival label. And then it works tirelessly to recreate those exact conditions over and over and over again. And that's why people find themselves in the same frustrating relationship dynamics, dating the same person, just in a different body. This is why you might have a financial ceiling that feels kind of similar to the one that your parents lived under. It's not because you're broken or unlucky. It's because your unconscious is expertly running a survival program it learned and locked in decades ago. So your unconscious has a default setting. What is familiar is safe, and what is new is a potential threat. So this drive to maintain the status quo is its hidden agenda. And right now, that agenda is running your life. And here's the fascinating paradox about all of this, and the absolute proof that this programming can be changed. Have you ever wondered why 8 out of 10 multimillionaires are self-made? Why so many wildly successful people are first-generation immigrants who started with absolutely nothing? It's because at some point, their unconscious mind learned a new, more powerful definition of safety. Through their life experiences, they recoded their internal programming. For them, staying broke and struggling was no longer safe, and it became the biggest threat of all. So true safety for them became wealth, security, freedom. And this brings us to a fork in the road, because there are only two ways to rewire this deep unconscious agenda. The first is the path of crisis. So this is when what people call a C, or a significant emotional event, shatters your world. So it might be a devastating health diagnosis, a rock bottom bankruptcy, a painful betrayal. It's a moment of impact so intense that it forcibly rewrites your definition of what is safe and what is dangerous. Now, this is the path that most people unconsciously take. And I can tell you now from personal experience, it is paved with pain. Or there's the second path, and this is the path of choice. This is the path where you choose to do the work in advance, the path where you consciously and deliberately decide to rewire your own operating system without needing a crisis to force your hand. Now, these are your only two options. You can either do a painful reactivate recode or a powerful proactive one. Now, what if you didn't have to wait for the crisis? What if you didn't need the trauma to trigger the transformation? That's what this masterclass is all about. That's why we're here, because I want to let you know you can choose to do it now. So let's have a look at why we stay stuck. What's at the heart of it all? And it all comes back to the hidden agenda. Belong to the family, be accepted, and survive. Now, have you ever learned something new or tried a new technique, maybe invested thousands of dollars in a course, and still nothing fundamentally changes? Anyone ever done that? That's because a hidden part of you is slamming on the brakes. It's an unconscious objection, and the key word here is unconscious. Because if you knew what your objection was to, say, having the money or the love or the health you desire, you would have already changed it, wouldn't you? Of course you would have. So the real block is always the one that you can't see. It's a rule written in a language that you don't consciously speak. So while the conscious part of you is focused on your goals, maybe it's growing your school community, maybe it's increasing your YouTube views or attracting your dream partner, your unconscious mind is playing an entirely different game. It has a single overriding directive, which is your survival. Its primary goal is to keep you alive. So how does it do that? It creates a survival map based on every experience you've ever endured. And on this map, whatever you survived, no matter how painful or traumatic it was, it gets hardwired into your blueprint as the safe path. Now, let me give you or use a powerful, it's actually a very real example. So I want you to imagine a child who experiences profound toxic shame. So just picture a 9-year-old boy running home, this flimsy paper of his report card in his hand. He's proud of his A in reading, but he's a little bit terrified of the C that he got in maths. So he hands this piece of paper to his father, who scans it, and his jaw tightens. The father ignores the A and stabs his finger at the C. A C? Are you kidding me? He says, his voice laced with ice. I work my fingers to the bone, and this is how you repay me? You're lazy. You're not trying hard enough. You will never get anything in life like this. And in that instant, the world shrinks for that little boy. The message he internalized is not, I did something bad, but something far more devastating. I am bad. So that crushing feeling, that deep sense of being fundamentally flawed and disappointing, that is the terror of being cast out. It's the primal fear of losing your place in the tribe. And here's the crucial part. The child survives. It hurts, absolutely, but he doesn't die from that shame. And the unconscious mind, in its simple survival-focused logic, creates a bizarre and life-altering agenda. It concludes, the feeling of being not good enough was agonizing, but we survived it. Therefore, to guarantee our survival in the future, we must seek out situations and relationships that make us feel not good enough, because we know how to survive that. And this becomes its hidden primary agenda. Now, I know you might be thinking, well, that sounds a little bit insane. Why on earth would your own mind choose to feel inadequate or ashamed? But that's the critical distinction here. You aren't choosing it. Your conscious mind, the part of you that wants to be happy, that wants to be success and fulfilled, it would never sign up for that. This isn't a choice. It's a program. And this is the missing piece for almost everyone. This is why affirmations can feel like you're shouting into a void, or why vision boards collect dust without ever becoming your reality. It's like trying to install a brand new high performance software, let's call it the Happy, Wealthy and Fulfilled app, onto a computer that's still running on operating system from 1995. You see, the old operating system, your unconscious survival programming, doesn't understand the new software. Its core code is built on rules like feeling not good enough keeps us safe. Being overlooked prevents us from being a target. So when you try to run your new goals, the system doesn't just fail, it actively fights you. It creates resistance, procrastination, and self-sabotage to reject the new program because it's in conflict with its ancient primary directive: survival at all costs. And the system will always default back to what it knows. And this is why you feel stuck. It's not a lack of willpower. It's not a character flaw. It's a system conflict. You have been trying to solve a hardware problem with a software solution, and it can never work. So until you upgrade the underlying operating system, you will be stuck in a loop, forever fighting against your own invisible programming. Right? So if you're able to, give me a 1 in the chat if you're getting this, if this is making sense to you. Okay. So here's how deep this programming runs. Okay, great. To the unconscious, this means you will actively seek out ways to be abused, not because you want the pain, but because your system has coded it as a familiar path to feeling safe. But it's not just about pain, and this next part is critical. The exact same survival mechanism can be created by something that looks like love. It can even be created by praise. So let's go back to that child. Imagine this time she comes home with a first place trophy from the science fair, and her parents' faces light up. There are hugs, there's celebrations, there's phone calls to the grandparents, and she is showered with affection and approval. Now, in that moment, she feels seen, she feels loved, and most importantly, she feels like she belongs. But Her unconscious mind is taking notes, and it learns a dangerous equation. Praise plus high achievement equals belonging. And so the terrifying flip side of that equation is no achievement equals no belonging. So suddenly, the pressure to succeed becomes the new threat to her survival. The unconscious agenda now says we must constantly be achieving, constantly striving, because if we stop, we will be cast out. We will lose our place in the family. And this is the universal principle. When a child's brain encounters a threat to their belonging, whether it's the sting of criticism or the pressure of praise, they cannot fight and they cannot flee. But they don't perish, they survive. And in that moment, a crucial wire gets tripped. The very experience that threatens their belonging becomes the unconscious strategy to guarantee it. So for me, it was a need to achieve. If I was the best, I'd be seen, I'd be praised, and I would earn my family's love. So I grew up always striving, always pushing. And when I wasn't the best, the self-talk in my head was brutal. Now, just the other weekend, yes, I won a gold medal in one of the races, but I also stuffed up one of the turns in the final of one of my other races. I was the steerer of our canoe. And I've got to tell you, the moment we crossed the line, we had the fastest time going into the finals. We ended up placing fourth because of my error on the first turn. And as soon as we crossed the finish line, the inner critic in my head, man, it started screaming at me. But what was really lovely was one of my teammates, and she knows, she's my paddling buddy, and she knows me really well. She turned around to me and she said, "Don't you dare go home and beat yourself up. This is a team sport." Now, she knows that my default is to take all the blame. And she was right. I did go home and I watched the replays of the race that were on YouTube, and I spent 2 hours that night rewriting the race before I went to sleep. Now, rewriting a race is another technique, by the way. It's how you can change your future by rewriting your past. But I'm going to save that one for another day. Okay, so that was my pattern, and this pattern will show up differently for everyone. I had a client who was always broke. Now, she was incredibly talented and she had a really good business, but the business itself, it needed her focus in order for it to be a really big success. But every time things started going well, her marriage would start falling apart, or a family member would get sick and need her attention. Family was her number one value, but her unconscious programming knew that it was also the button to push to pull her back into safety. You see, her system was running a hidden program that said business success threatens your family connection. So it would constantly manufacture crises to kill her business momentum and force her to choose her family, therefore reinforcing the old safe pattern. For her, the unconscious pattern revolved around a single belief: she couldn't have both. She couldn't be successful in business and have a thriving family life. Her internal wiring made it impossible for her to have both. So once we managed to identify that specific program and we recoded it, the conflict disappeared. And her business and her relationship didn't just coexist, they went to new heights, and money was never an issue for her ever again. So every single one of us has one or more of these patterns running in the background. Now, you can call them your judges, you can call them your saboteurs, or as I've called them, you can call them your unconscious agendas. But to be able to transform them, to use alchemy on them, you first have to name them. So in the majority of my work, we drill down on the specifics and look at 12 core unconscious agendas. These are the most common self-sabotaging programs that hold people back. Now, it's really key to pay attention to this. The first step isn't to fight them, it's to find them. You have to move from guessing to knowing. And that's why in the classroom, I've developed a really simple assessment to help you identify which of these agendas are most likely running your show. So if you haven't done that already, I encourage you to check out the assessment in the classroom to discover which of the 12 agendas are your top 3. This is kind of like the starting point for taking back control. So if we're running all these hidden self-sabotaging programs, how does anyone ever achieve anything extraordinary? So let me share this simple but powerful truth. Your programming is not your potential. Ordinary people just like you are capable of rewiring their code and achieving unimaginable things like every single day. Let's consider the heroes who walk among us now, people who have faced down their own unconscious agendas. So think of J.K. Rowling. She was a single mother on welfare, and she was told her story about a boy wizard was a guaranteed failure. But instead of accepting the program of rejection, she persevered with a vision only she could see, selling over 400 million books. Albert Einstein, well, he didn't speak until he was 4. But instead of succumbing to the program of being slow or different, he learned to visualize himself riding on a beam of light, unlocking a theory that has reshaped our entire universe. Jim Carrey was once a homeless teenager, but instead of letting the program of poverty define him, he famously wrote himself a check for $10 million for acting services rendered. He dated it for the future, and then he did the work to make it a reality. Steven Spielberg, I think he's one of the best directors, was rejected by his dream films twice. But instead of internalizing the program of not good enough, he tapped into his superconscious genius to create the most iconic films in history. I'm kind of showing my age now. Oprah Winfrey overcame a childhood of horrific trauma. But she didn't stay in the victim of that program. She decided to become the creator of her own life, focusing relentlessly on what she wanted to build. So I suppose, what do all of these remarkable people have in common? Well, it wasn't luck, and it wasn't some passive law of attraction secret. Every single one of them found a way to bypass their old programming and access a higher level of consciousness. They tapped into a repeatable, superconscious creation process that allowed them to take decisive action in the face of unimaginable doubt and bring something entirely new into the world. Here's the crucial distinction, and this is why most people get stuck. Inspiration is not the same as installation. You see, we can admire these icons, but they can't give you the system behind their success. They can share their story, but they can't teach you the process. And that is my entire focus. My mission isn't to just talk about consciousness. It is to give you a framework to make it your operating system. This isn't something you study. It's something you live. I don't just want to tell you that creating an extraordinary life is possible. I want to hand you the repeatable process so that you can do it and then teach it to others to do the same. Because this is bigger than just you or me. There is a theory that it only takes the square root of 1% of the population to create a measurable shift in global consciousness. So right now, that number is 9,000 people. So that's my first goal, to find and empower the first 9,000 leaders who will build a world from the inside out. And we're going to do it one by one by giving you a simple, repeatable system to access your superconscious awareness on demand, to dissolve your deepest unconscious limitations, to become the conscious creator of your life and take inspired, decisive, right action. And once you learn the system, it's yours to keep and for yours to share. The philosophy is simple. You cannot trademark the truth. So we want you to take what you learn, to master it, and then give it away to everyone you can, so that this knowledge becomes my legacy and your legacy. Right. So is this helpful, by the way, guys? Are you learning something today? How about you put a 2 in the chat if you are? Right. Just let me know if you're getting some key points today. Awesome. All right. So let's talk about your current reality for a moment. So the amount of money in your bank account, the quality of your relationships, the projects you've launched versus the ones you've abandoned, how you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror. All of these things are direct, undeniable proof and printouts of your unconscious identity. Not your goals, not your vision boards, but your deep hidden identity. And here's a truth that might sting a little at first. Nothing in your life is a mistake. Everything you are experiencing right now, even the parts you dislike intensely, are there because a part of your consciousness believes it's necessary for your survival. Now, your unconscious mind isn't your enemy. Think of it less as a saboteur and more as a overprotective bodyguard. Its only job is to keep you safe, and its definition of safe is what is familiar. Remember, it is wired to ensure you belong to your family system and to repeat familiar patterns, avoiding anything that feels too different. To this ancient system, different equals dangerous, even if different is the very breakthrough that you've been praying for. So if you're still wondering why you can't seem to push past a certain income level, or why you keep attracting the same kind of partner, or why that incredible momentum you always seem to be able to build just fizzles out, it's not because you lack willpower or desire. It's because you are running your life on an outdated operating system. You're trying to run modern high-speed applications, your biggest dreams, on the equivalent of Windows 95. And the system simply isn't designed to handle the reality that you're wanting to create. So it's always going to default back to its core programming, keeping things exactly as they are. But here's the most important thing to understand. You are not the operating system. You are the user. And you have the power to install and upgrade. And when you do, everything changes. So fundamentally, there are only 2 ways to live your life. There's only 2 internal structures your consciousness can organize itself around. Now, you are in one of these structures right now, whether you know it or not. So structure 1 is the survival structure. So this is the default setting for most of humanity. You focus on what's wrong, what needs fixing, and what you lack. You set goals not out of inspiration, but out of desperation to prove that you're good enough, that you're finally worthy, to escape the constant, uncomfortable feeling of being behind. It can look like ambition. It can even look like self-improvement. But if you listen closely, there's a relentless quiet hum beneath it all. I'm not there yet. I'm not enough yet. You see, living in this structure is like trying to build a skyscraper on a crumbling foundation. You're always patching leaks and fixing cracks in the past instead of building the future. Now, the primary emotional driver is moving away from something: pain, failure, judgment, scarcity. All right, so that's the first structure. The second structure is the creative structure, and this is where true creators live. So this is where your focus shifts entirely to what you're building, what you're creating, who you are becoming, and the vision that wants to emerge through you. So in this structure, you set goals because they are an authentic expression of your truth, not because you need them to validate your existence. There's a difference. In this structure, you're not fixing the past, you're building the future. You are no longer moving away from pain because you're being pulled towards a vision. It's a calling. It's the next evolution of yourself. And here's what's wild. These two structures produce completely different realities, even when the surface level goals look identical. So just imagine two people who both want to make, let's say, $10,000 a month. One is running from the terror of scarcity. One is running toward the joy of abundance. So if one's trying to get away from pain and one's trying to get towards what they desire, do you think they're going to take the same actions? Do you think they're going to have the same energy? Of course not. That's right. The person in the survival structure will most likely self-sabotage right before the breakthrough because their unconscious identity is still rooted in the problem they are trying to escape. The person in the creative structure will navigate resistance with ease because their identity is already anchored in the vision that they are creating. Their unconscious minds have been given a different job. One is a bodyguard protecting a wound. The other is a partner in creation. Now, the unconscious mind, like I've said before, has a single, not negotiable agenda: to keep you safe. But here's the critical distinction you must understand. To your unconscious, safe does not mean happy, fulfilled, or abundant. It means familiar. Okay? Whatever environment you survived as a child becomes the blueprint for your adult life. That pattern, no matter how painful or limiting, was encoded as your definition of safety. If you survived it, your unconscious concluded, this is the winning strategy. Let's keep running the program for the rest of our lives. So if you grew up surrounded by financial scarcity, your unconscious mind feels at home there. It'll have a high tolerance for empty bank accounts and a low tolerance for wealth, which feels dangerously unfamiliar. If you grew up trying to achieve or trying to earn love, your unconscious feels safe only when you're caught in the exhausting loop of striving. If you grew up walking on eggshells, your unconscious will literally seek out and create anxiety to feel in control. Think of it like a thermostat set at a specific temperature. If the room gets hotter, for example, you start making more money or feeling too happy, the system immediately kicks in to cool it back down again to that familiar setting. And this will be why lottery winners go broke, why high achievers burn out, and why you know what to do, but you still can't get yourself to do it. You're not fighting a lack of willpower. You're fighting a deeply ingrained security system whose prime directive is to maintain the status quo. And it's a battle that you're going to lose 100% of the time. But here's where it gets interesting. What if, instead of fighting the system, you could simply give it a new set of instructions? So through my work with hundreds of the most successful coaches, entrepreneurs, creators in the world, I began to see the same invisible barriers showing up again and again. Now, I realized these weren't unique problems. They were just different flavors that I broke into 12 core unconscious patterns, or I call them the 12 unconscious agendas. Now, these aren't your personality. They are survival programs that you installed as a child to protect yourself. And now they are running your life on autopilot. So let me walk you through them. As I do, don't just listen with your mind, listen with your body. See which one makes you lean in, which one makes your breath catch, and which one feels like I'm reading a page from your secret diary. Because you'll recognize the code when you hear it. So let's explore a couple of the most common ones I see. So first, there is the achiever. As a child, this is when you learned that love, safety, and approval were conditional. Yeah, I forgot to do something. Let's turn that off. They were rewards for performance. So you needed to get the A+. You won the netball game. You were the good kid. And only then did you feel seen. Now, as an adult, this code runs your life. You are relentlessly driven, but you can never celebrate your wins because, well, you've most likely already moved on to the next goal. The feeling of enough is always just over the horizon because you secretly believe that if you stop achieving, you will become worthless. Now, another one I see constantly is the controller. Now, you may have grown up in a chaotic or unpredictable environment. As a child, you learn to be hypervigilant, to anticipate everybody's needs and moods, to keep the peace and stay safe. Now, this may look like an inability to turn off your mind. You overplan everything. You have contingency plans for your contingency plans for your contingency plans, and you feel a constant low-grade anxiety. So the mistake, or should I say, a lot of people will mistake anxiety for control, but it's actually the very thing keeping you trapped in this state of high alert, unable to be present and receive the good you want. Now, those are just 2 of the 12 unconscious agendas. There's also the people pleaser, the invisible one, the rebel, the victim, and each one of them has its own unique logic for keeping you stuck. Each one of them is a brilliant survival strategy that has now outlived its usefulness. Now, you may have resonated deeply with one of those I just mentioned, or you might be thinking, well, I can see a bit of myself in both of those. Or you may be wondering what the other ones are because you haven't felt that lightning bolt of recognition yet. And I don't want to leave you guessing because that is too important. So just remember, if you go into the classroom of the community here, there is a simple assessment you can do. It's free, and you can discover your unconscious agendas. You can get it done within 5 minutes. Now, some of the questions you're going to read and go, well, that doesn't apply to me at all. Just pick the best answer, and you'll be surprised what you end up with at the end. You know, this is the type of work that I do with all my private clients in the very first session because I know it changes everything. Because when you know your agendas, you stop fighting your own behavior and start finally rewriting it. So so at the end of this recording, go to the classroom and find out what is your top 3 unconscious agendas. Now, here's what really matters when you are discovering them. Every single one of these patterns or these agendas can't exist unless there is the polar opposite. They all have a genius inside of them. You see, the problem isn't actually the pattern. The problem is when the pattern runs you instead of you running it. And when you're unconscious to the pattern, it shows up as self-sabotage, procrastination, people-pleasing, perfectionism. All of these ways are how you block your own momentum. But when you become conscious of it, when you see it clearly, you can redirect that same powerful energy toward what you actually want. So the part of you that's so good at creating scarcity, well, it can create abundance just as powerfully. The part of you that's brilliant at staying small, well, it can be brilliant at playing a massive game. It can be brilliant at expansion. Again, you're not broken. You're just misprogrammed. And programs can be upgraded.